Let's focus on Romans 9, 1 through 9. There are four things I want to say about this passage. First of all, it's really all about election problem. Election is one of the most hated doctrines of the Bible. As it turns out in Romans, two of the most hated doctrines in the Bible are here. Total depravity, maybe that's the very most hated doctrine, but election is a hated doctrine, and it's very disturbing actually for almost anyone. And the reason is there's something in man that does not like the doctrine of election, and it's because it's an assault on man-centeredness. But Romans 9, in focusing on election, is really an exaltation of the grace of God in salvation. Let me say it this way. Would you rather have God who chooses you based on your righteousness, or God who chooses you in spite of your righteousness? That's really a big part of the issue here. Also, what's happening here in Romans 9 is a vindication of the justice of God, because election is a category in the justice of God. And theologians call this a theodicy. It's a proving of God's justice and his mercy. So the first thing is, this is hard-slogging doctrine that often people really have a hard time desiring to accept. Secondly, Paul, he states his love for his countrymen in the first three verses of this chapter, and he just pours out his heart. He says, I have great sorrow, I have continual grief in my heart for my people, because the Jews have rejected Christ. He says, I wish that I myself were accursed from Christ for my brethren, my countrymen. Now, these are his countrymen. These are the people that want to kill him. These are the people that are chasing him around. These are the ones that are flogging him and hounding him from city to city, often leaving him for dead. And yet he still loves them. He's not raging against them. The third thing, not only does Paul declare his love for his countrymen, he declares God's love for his countrymen in verses 4 and 5. And he itemizes 6 things that God has done. The adoption, the glory, the covenants, the giving of the law. God gave Israel so many blessings, and this is what God does. He always gives his people blessings, advantages, ways to see his goodness, his glory, his faithfulness. And that's why God has always gathered his people together, either in the tabernacle or the temple, and now in the church. He does that to bring his people together, to show them how good he is. And God favored Israel that way. And you just might ask yourself, do you see the favor of God toward you? The fourth thing I want to say is that here in this text, Paul says, they are not all Israel who are of Israel. And what he's saying is that just because you're affiliated with Israel doesn't make you the true Israel. You have physical Israel and spiritual Israel, just like you have the visible church and the true church. And it's always been this way. It's not like in the Old Testament we had the God who said, if you just do these 5 things, you'll be part of Israel. Salvation was always by faith. Romans 4 proves this. It was the faith of Abraham. By the way, Abraham was before the law. It was never about law keeping, not in the Old Testament, and definitely not in the New Testament. For example, in Romans 2:28, for he is not a Jew who is one outwardly, nor is circumcision that which is outward in the flesh, but he who is a Jew is one inwardly. And that's why in this passage you have physical Israel and spiritual Israel. And the big question is, who are you? Are you of true Israel? Or are you just part of the visible church? Are you just partaking in these blessings, these benefits, these advantages? Well, the reality is the advantages can't save you. But Jesus Christ, in his mercy, is the only way to be rescued from your law keeping? Are you a person who's just hanging around the religion, doing the stuff of the religion? Or are you a true Jew? Are you part of spiritual Israel? Are you a true believer, not just a part of the visible church, but of the spiritual church of Jesus Christ? That's the big question. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God stands forever.
Scripture Applied is a production of Church and Family Life. Visit churchandfamilylife.com for more resources.